So I listen to Easy and Alan on their Just a Fantasy Fan podcast. During the show, you can live chat with Easy and Alan at LennyMelnickFantasySports.com. Rumour has it, Lenny only swings one way, with Launch Angle. Now here's Easy and Chris Allen.
And we are here. It must be a Wednesday night. Thank you, Brian, for the little intro there. We had an intro tonight, Chris.
Really?
Yeah, the Mets 360 guys, they're getting used to us now. They bring us an audience. All the Mets fans that are on this network. I think 3 of them and 2 of them do a show. But all the Mets fans are revved up and ready to go to see what
craziness we can get into.
Right. What we have to offer this network. So, I'm pretty excited. And I think we said, I don't know if I told you or somebody else. I still am wondering, Brian, if you're still out there, Mets 360, does that mean there's 5 days you say, I don't give a shit about the Mets? Or does 360 mean you care about them all the way around, right where they started from? I don't know. We've had an argument, meaning I would think if I was a Mets fan, I want to be a Met 180, meaning, you know what, guys, you've been finishing low. I want to let's just go 180 here and be competitive.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'm a Reds 180 guy. You know what? I'm ready for the Reds to be, World Series champs. And I think I'm going with that this year. How about you?
Yeah, I'm with that. I mean, I would love to see it. Well, actually take that back. I want to see them just back in the playoffs.
Okay. If we're going to go there.
Baby steps,
Baby steps. Competitive. Yeah. I mean, they were funner, me and they were more enjoyable to watch last year. The offense, did some stuff.
Not the start of the season, though.
No, they started bad. I will agree. Yeah. They started, poorly. But after that first month, again, they were fun to watch. They scored runs.
Yeah.
Don't be knocking my Reds.
No knocking, just being honest.
There you go. Well, welcome. We welcome you to LennyMelnickFantasySports.com, the Legend Sports Network. This is Easy. That's me. That's Chris Allen. That's him. This is our 51st episode. We had the big celebration. I put away the candles and the cakes and
the fireworks.
I think we just lost my camera's been acting goofy. So I think we're
oh my goodness.
Oh, I know. It's just terrible now. My camera's goofy. I'm gonna have to. I don't know. Who knows what's going on? I think I can. Do you see me? You don't see me at all, right? You just see some. All right. Well, I'll fix it. I'll fix it while we're talking. Important stuff and all that. But let's go with. I'll let you chat while I'm setting this up. How's your week? I know you've taken fantasy off. Are you doing anything? Working on an article right at the moment? What's going on?
Yeah, this is actually the first week. I've got content being produced. I actually have an article on best ball that should be coming out tomorrow through Fantrax. So I've gone back and looked at all of the 2018 draft data and kind of boiled it down into looking at the different trends and whatnot that came out of that in terms of roster construction, builds, players, like top 12 players, their ADP, and like in who and what players hit the most often. And so I'm trying to take the trends I saw from the 2018 season and then flipping that into what might be repeatable in the 2019 season. So a lot of stuff I've got going on right now.
Oh, okay. So it's keeping you busy. You're staying active.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, best ball season is like already underway. And people have been doing drafts, I believe, since like middle of January, I think, when best ball is open for some sites. Fantrax, I know, has been running for the past couple of weeks, so we've had some draft rooms fill there. So if people want to draft now, come on over. I know we've got a few open lobbies with my name in there. So come on over and pony up $10 and let's draft.
All right. So you know what? I'm glad you brought that up because you don't let me talk about these best ball leagues during the season, but I'm assuming, that all ended. How did your best ball season end from last year? I forgot all about this. I'm glad you brought that up. How did you end up?
I actually performed pretty well. Like in the past, my win rate had only been somewhere around like 10%. That jumped up this year to about 18%. So I had about, I think I had maybe just a little over 1,000 in winnings, somewhere in there.
No, that's good. So
pretty good.
You were plus. You were on the upside.
Oh yes, sir. Very happy
So
about that.
where do you have to be? I would assume you have to be a little over 10% to be in the upside with the rake, right?
Yeah, pretty much. But like Fantrax offers the lowest rake. I think they only take like a 2% rake or something like that. But I think with other platforms, I think like Fanball, it's a little bit more. And I think FFPC, the Fantasy Football Players Championship, that website, they have like I think they have the highest rake, something like 20%, 30%.
Holy Lord. The difference in 2% and 20 is a bunch.
It's pretty hefty. So that's why Fantrax has become a little bit more popular because of the rake. It's so low.
All right. So best ball leagues are already drafted. Can you just mock draft over there right at the moment? Meaning,
they have mock drafts are available. They're doing.
Now, let me ask. I've not done their mock drafting. Do they have mock drafts where you can just do it alone and draft against 11 other computers, or you have to wait till the lobby fills up?
You can do it either way. So if you want to have it set up so that you're just drafting against AI or whatever, just drafting against like ADP.
Right.
Then you can set it up that way, and then if you want to wait and do it with actual people, then it takes a little bit longer since you have to wait for the lobby to fill. But I think that's an option.
All right, I'll have to do. I can't do that. I'm in baseball. I got one league already drafted. I know. I got to do baseball. I've got to. That's really draft. I got to work on my baseball skills.
Yeah. That's what the site is most known for. Most of the guys that do content over there, they're much more like baseball oriented. I'm one of the few NFL content creators like for Fantrax, so that's where we're trying to we brought in some new writers this year. Actually, Scott Engel from ESPN.
I saw that.
Yeah, he just joined the team, and a couple of guys, Nate Hamilton. So along with like Joe Pisapia and like some other guys, they'll be doing like NFL content for us.
Well, that'll be good. I mean, and actually, now you say that, I've always thought of Fantrax, and I only think football. I guess I forget that they probably have ball. I mean, I know they have baseball stuff. I just
a lot of the guys like.
Unfortunately, the couple leagues that I've played in Fantrax, I just can't get used to their software when it comes to leagues. But I've used their software. I've mock draft on there and for football before. I guess, like I said, maybe I have to try it out for the baseball stuff. I know they're a younger site, and they're changing all the time.
They're working on an actual app that people can access like via mobile. Okay,
right, because they always push that their site is mobile accessible, but it's not a true app or a mobile.
So they've heard enough of the people asking for it, so the development team is putting that into the work so they can have it. I don't know if they'll have that available for baseball season, but I think the goal is to have something in place for the NFL season.
Gotcha, and have it ready. All right. So have you already done any best ball drafts, or just
I'm in two right now.
And are most of those slow drafts? How do they normally? What's the draft length? How are they normally set up?
8-hour timers, the slower ones.
I got you. Yeah. All right. Well, this time of year, that's fine though. Obviously, so
yeah. I mean, we're looking for. I mean, free agency news is kind of coming and going. We still haven't even gotten to the draft yet. So I wanted to do a couple now, see where things are sitting at. I'll probably take a couple months off, wait for the draft to happen, hop back into it around the late April, early May timeframe. And then once summer hits, that's when it'll be like hot and heavy, man.
Hot and heavy.
Yes, sir. I'll be doing drafts every day.
Every day. I need to get, again, I don't know. I just feel that maybe I just have to do some best balls to get better at it. But I end up drafting them like their regular season because I haven't studied enough. I'm going to have to get into some articles of best ball maybe. And because I got in two, and obviously I didn't money in either one. And I finished the middle of the pack. And like I said, in both of them, I had issues, and I could tell it was just because I just didn't draft thinking ahead. Meaning, you have to realize that it's best ball. There are some things that are different than a regular draft. So
exactly, not having the benefit of reacting to news, injuries, and all that. It's just you won't have that luxury. So you kind of have to think about.
Yeah, but neither does your opponent. So I mean, I get that. I mean, it's not that it's not fair, equal. It's just a different way to do it. So
absolutely.
All right. Well, like I said, we had our big anniversary show. Last week. This week, it's pretty.
It's back to the same old.
Same old, which means, I write a few things down and we see how it goes.
Right.
But Mrs. Easy had a birthday today.
Oh, happy birthday to Mrs. Easy.
We had to go out to drink. I mean, out to eat. And my local establishment took my Trotwood off a tap.
Uh-oh.
And I don't even know what they gave me. A picture of something frog. Frog leap. I don't even know. She said it was local. I mean, it wasn't bad. Obviously, if anything, most people would probably say it was more flavor than a Trotwood. Trotwood is still just a fancy PBR.
Well, sure. Yeah.
The problem was, I'm not saying this was bad, but I got a picture of it. It was a little more. There's a little more easy kick in there than the Trotwood I was used to. So
yeah.
I'm just saying. Easy's a little more laid back. And I'm not a mean drunk. I'm not a loud, obnoxious drunk. And you know why? Because both of those things I am sober. So the problem is my wife knows when I've drank too much because I'm asleep. I don't nap. I don't do anything. I usually don't fall asleep.
Pass out?
I don't like the word pass out. Pass out makes it seem like I'm sloppy drunk.
That's fair.
I just really get the mellow me. So tonight, Chris, you have the more mellow me.
The easy.
The easy E. I'm just easy. Yeah. I'm just saying. A picture of that hit me a little hard this evening about an hour ago. And I went,
there we go.
I'm like, man, I got to stay awake. I got to tell you 100%. If I didn't have a show at 10 o'clock, I might be in bed right already. It's like, I got up early because I had to shovel 80 pounds of snow, which was like just one path. That shit was heavy this morning.
Yeah, with all the slush and whatnot. Yeah.
Oh my Lord. I shoveled like the first thing to get out of my door, the side of the deck so the dogs could get out. And I I went, holy, it's like someone stood on my shovel.
Right.
So between that early morning, heavy shovel and that picture of, I don't know, it's something frog. I have to figure out what it was. Like I said,
all right, let me know
when she told me no Trotwood, I said, what do you have? She said, we have this new stuff. Like I said, it wasn't bad. Again, it just a little more kick, a little more flavor.
Okay.
When I eat, I don't like. I ate it. It was fine. They had a special tonight. Pork chili. It was pretty good. It was pork. I had pork chili, French fries, and some fried pickles, and a pitcher of this stuff. And usually, when I have those more flavored beers, is usually by themselves. I just like when I'm just drinking. I like those. That's why I kind of like the Trotwood. When I'm eating, that just is a good go-to beer because the flavor, doesn't take over. So, and I did, Jonathan, who does a show here now, Draft for Upside, but the name of his show is Draft, like in draft beer, not draft as in fantasy sports. He owns a brewery in Detroit.
Okay.
And last night, he was on my show last night, my roundtable. He was actually on his way home from a tasting of one of their new beers. Yeah. And we were talking. I told him I was drinking Trotwood, and he knows the guy who owns Warped Wing, and they actually have a collaboration beer that's in the works right now. And I think he says they come down April the 19th. He'll be in the Dayton area to tap that new beer, and he's going to look us up. He's going to at least look me up. Maybe I'll give you a call, but
right. I'm happy to meet downtown or whatever.
Yeah, meet downtown and try some new beer.
Yeah.
That's what I said. I said, hey, look me up, Jonathan.
Maybe give a call, shoot a text message over to one of our affiliates.
Right. I'm just saying, we'll see I don't know this isn't my party.
Right.
It's not Easy's gig yet, but
that's true.
I will just,
we'll see what we got going on.
Exactly. Now he invited us up to his place. He's got a brewery and a little establishment where you can drink. He said if we ever were in the Detroit area or wanted to come and watch a Tigers game or a Lions football game, he said, we were more than welcome to come up there and partake.
All right.
So, all right. Let me let's see how this works. Let me do a transition. I think that's a technical term. right?
I think that's a term for people in the biz. So I think, look at you.
I'm in the biz. I'm in the biz. We're going to go a little transaction and see if this works. And, you know, I don't know if you got to see this record-breaking performance.
I did not.
You did not?
I didn't.
Well,
Look at her go.
Oh, I mean,
she's getting it.
Do you have volume over there, I think?
No, I don't have volume, but man, she's hitting those turns.
You don't get volume on this?
No. I got no volume. I can hear you, but I can't hear the video itself. But man, she's killing it right now.
Well, that's Schifrin, and she was going for her 4th slalom in a row. So
Okay.
that would be a record breaker if she wins. No one had ever in the history of the slalom won four downhill championships in a row.
Okay.
And so now I'm a little disappointed. I hear the volume of it fine, so I don't know why I don't have it in your ear, but
Oh well.
you know.
But I mean, I can see what she's doing right now, and looks like, oh boy.
And the thing is, she had a cold. She couldn't breathe. She did all this. And there was actually 2 more skaters to go. We're not going to watch all that. They obviously did not beat her time. And the USA Schifrin breaks the record of 4 downhill slalom championships in a row. Which
that is impressive.
Because this stuff was, in another country, obviously it was on early Saturday morning or Sunday morning.
Mm-hmm.
And I get up for that kind of stuff.
Right.
You know, these were the championships. So it was pretty cool to get up and watch. I hope some of you heard that. If Chris didn't, not that it mattered, I guess. So, I'm playing with my toys here, trying to figure out how to do transitions.
Yes.
Yeah, I need to figure out why you didn't get the volume, because I think you should hear. But I thought that was pretty cool. I got up, and actually, my phone beeped, a Twitter thing or something, or one of those things that said, hey, Fox Sports right now live is the championship. And, she's going for that in a row. And I'd watched the day before where she was at that time only had like the 3rd fastest time. So that's why there was 2 more girls that went after her. So again, the women's ski team, the men's, I don't know, our men don't do very well nowadays. Not like our women in that. But we also had Lindsey Vonn, who did a retirement. This was her last championship, her last thing, but she crashed. She had a big crash. Unfortunately, actually, I'm not going to say hurt herself. She hurt herself. Let's go there, but not bad.
Mm-hmm.
I think her face hit pretty good. They thought she might have a black eye or something like that. But it was unfortunately her last race, and which made me think: are her and Mr. Tiger Woods, are they still an item, or is that not a thing anymore? Because I haven't heard much about that lately.
I haven't heard either, to be quite honest with you. I don't know if that's still a thing or not. Might be worth looking into.
I mean, we're just a sports show here, and I know. Right. We don't get into Tiger Woods and downhill skiers and that kind of stuff as far as what really is out there.
Well, they are saying Erica Herman.
Who's that?
That's what they're saying is Tiger Woods' girlfriend.
Now, so obviously Lindsey Vonn, I would say, is not. Then I at least know they dated maybe a year ago. Maybe did I make that shit up?
This is an article as of September of last year.
All right, maybe Lindsey Vonn doesn't even know Tiger Woods. Is that what you're saying?
I have no idea.
I don't know. Now, all right. Well, I'm getting ready for some other transition.
They were dating.
Yeah, I thought so. Maybe okay. So I mean, hey, I don't pay a lot of attention to what Tiger Woods' love life is, I guess.
That was too much of a spotlight on his love life to begin with. I've tried to keep my nose out of that business.
Yeah, poor boy. I mean, poor boy. We also so yes, we had the World Championships skiing. The boys, we haven't talked about the men. The girls were Saturday morning. I think about it. The boys were Sunday morning because I got up for that. And USA men, as far as I recall, there was nobody in the, that had a chance to win. So I didn't necessarily follow the very end of that. We had our big first NASCAR race of the year. I know you're a big NASCAR guy.
Of course. I mean, I sat down to watch it all day. When was it?
I knew you were lying. Well, but they've ruined the sport anyway. In the old days, and I'm old, in the old days, the race came on at noon and was over. What NASCAR used to be, you get up in the morning, you do a few chores.
Yeah.
It's time to sit down, have a beer, a nice little lunch or something. You watch the race for 3 hours. The race was over. You did a few more chores. You did dinner. Now they start the race at like 3:30, and it ended at night. It was like,
why does it take so long now?
Well, they've ruined it. I know there's people out there that say they haven't, but they have. They have these. Well, they do. They have wrecks. I mean, in the old days, there's a wreck. You just drove through it. Who cared? Mayhem be damned. Let's go. And now, nope, red flag. Everybody, please, please, please park your car, put a couple quarters in the meter, and we're going to run 97 commercials, and then we'll come back and start the race again. I don't know. I don't get it. It's not. And I used to be a big car guy for racing. But my dad was a big car guy, but we weren't race car guys. The drivers were a part of it, obviously, but it was more the technology. I just remember my dad just being so excited that cars were now going 200 miles an hour,
right.
And that they had posi traction and we had this and that. I mean, my dad would talk about the technology, not the drivers. And now that's not the case. All the cars are, dead. Exactly the same car. It's
pretty much. I mean, technology's at its peak.
NASCAR thinks, and maybe I'm just the oddball, possible, but NASCAR thinks that we want to watch all 40 cars in a big bunch. They don't want one or two cars to be way in the lead.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't mind an ass kicking. I think an ass kicking can be fun to watch. So. But nope, not NASCAR. Somebody gets too far out, they throw the flag for some debris somewhere.
Oh my God.
Put them all back in a pack, and start again.
I mean, even for NASCAR, that sounds boring.
Exactly. It is. There's something about it just isn't right anymore. And to be honest, Indy cars do the same thing now. I mean, it's just, and I get it. Cars, the technology of racing, and again, this happened a while back. I remember in Indy, it happened before NASCAR. The Indy cars were hitting 220 miles an hour at Indy. And Indy doesn't have those big curves. Right. Actually, it's a pretty flat track. So to be going 220 was phenomenal. And then, and again, I get it. There was some deaths, some really bad crashes.
Mm-hmm.
So, so what they decided, and that I get that to a point. But
sure.
But what they decided to do is, okay, the cars, we don't ever want them to go that fast. So we're going to keep them all going, 200 and something, and we throttle them back and all that. So now there's no technology to, my point would be, I liked when the technology, trust me, people died 100 years ago when they would go 80 miles an hour. There was no seatbelts.
Wow. Yeah.
They did. There was a lot of accidents back in India in the day because so what they did is the technology would get better. So the car could go faster, a little safer. It just kept, one kept going with the other. And now the technology and the safety, it's all there. And I get it. It is safer now, but the technology isn't, I shouldn't say that. I mean, there's little technology, but I just remember big changes in racing and my dad talking about, man, in a couple years, I'll be able to buy a car that has that. That was a cool thing,
Yeah.
So,
we might now have just kind of reached our peak with technology and, unless Elon Musk comes up with some sort of, space age type stuff to apply to cars.
Well, but then what we would do then is you would do other things. Okay. So now our tires need to be better. How can we make 220 or how can we make 230 safer? So, work on tires, work on this, with safer walls, better helmet. I mean, to me, different tracks even, make the tracks even more banked. I don't know. I want to see cars go around at 245 miles an hour. We don't see that anymore. See, I remember, and if you didn't follow NASCAR, I remember when in the in the 80s, when my dad would get the Indianapolis paper, every day you couldn't wait to get home to read that paper to see how fast they went. Every day they'd break records. They went 198. I'd go, Dad, they really did go 198 today on that track? Yeah, they went 198. Wow. And then you'd read the paper a couple days later and go, somebody went 198.9. Oh, they're almost at 199. I mean, you got so excited when I just remember how excited I was when me and Dad started talking about how cars were going 200 miles an hour. And now it is. And my point is they eventually got to about 220 and said that this is enough. But my thing is, I don't know. My adrenaline is like, how is that enough? We're Americans. You know what? The word enough isn't enough for me. You're saying if you knew tomorrow that there was going to be a race on where cars were going to go 267, you might not tune in.
Oh, I tune in for that.
But that's right. But now we've been going 200 now for like 20 years.
Yeah, so nobody cares.
It's not a thing, right? So what did they do? And said, okay, well, no one gets excited for the speed anymore, so we'll bunch them all together so it looks faster. It's a bigger group going 200. That'll be exciting. Right. Not for me. Give me one guy going 266 and my ass will be right there. I mean, I will be watching. I would be watching it I'd be watching it 240 right now. Meaning, if they were going, hey, we're going to not throttle them back. If they can go 240 and they're willing to, I don't want anyone to die. We had that with the bull rider guy. I don't. Right. But if someone says, okay, that's my job, I'm willing to take it. I want to go 240 myself. I can't imagine some race car driver not going, man, I think 240 would be kind of cool. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if they're comfortable doing it, I can be comfortable watching it, you know? So I don't know how we got off on that spiel, but I don't know. Are you prepared for the combines? Let's go there. Let's go to something a little more calmer.
Yeah. I mean, I'm getting a lot of news, taking in a lot of podcasts and articles and talking to some folks behind the scenes about players they're looking to see and like their expectations for how they'll test. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, honestly, I want to go out at some point. I would like to.
It's in Indy, right? It's in Indianapolis. Do you have to be invited? I'll ask you. I really haven't even thought about it. I mean, do you have to be invited?
I believe so. I forget.
So there is no spectators. You can't just buy a seat and go in.
I thought you could. Now, I'd have to look it up and check. But I would like to just be in Indianapolis, like in the city, like when it happens. Because
I would like to be in the stadium. I guess I didn't know that. I guess we should find out maybe next year. I had no problem spending a day with you sitting in a seat watching combines. Yeah. I'm just kind of so go ahead and talk. What are you looking forward to? While I'm looking up, I'm just trying to see real quick. Is there a list of people who were invited or who the top people are? Okay, I got it. Top performers coming to the combine. So go ahead. Yeah. What are you looking forward to then?
Like specific players?
Yeah, I mean, is there somebody specific Metcalf, or? Yeah,
DK Metcalf. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how he tests out after the picture of him looking super swole last week came out. Looking to see how well he tests because it's between him, N'Keal Harry. I know those have been like the wide receivers talked in terms of in dynasty circles as the 1.01, maybe some AJ Brown talk as well. I'm looking to see how it's a David Montgomery, if I'm not mistaken, running back. Looking to see how well he performs. Josh Jacobs, if I'm not mistaken. I'm looking to see how well he projects to perform. The running back from Alabama, if I'm not mistaken. So there are a number of like these high profile players that in dynasty circles are being talked about being drafted in the first round of rookie drafts that I want to see how well they test and if they are at least worthy of the first round pick or if this is a class that a lot of people, at least in dynasty circles, want to trade out of completely. And then of course the Kyler Murray. Since he's been invited to the combine and he will be there at the combine.
See, I guess I did. Last year was the first year I watched it a lot. I put it on at work and it was on all day.
Yeah.
To be real honest, most of the guys you just named are the top. And let's say with running back type positions or the wide receivers. I got to say, after watching them for a day, they all look the same to me. watching the O lineman, the defensive lineman, that the word hysterical is not right. I'm just like mesmerized by what they don't look fast, but they're fast. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
I got to where I enjoyed watching the linemen more than I did the players, and my skill set of what a lineman's doing. I didn't know shit what he was doing, good or bad. Just watching those big guys do some of that stuff. Was pretty exciting. So
it looks like, from what I'm reading, though, it's closed to the general public. So I don't think you can actually be in there. You can get like an invite, I think, if you like submit your credentials and whatnot. But I think they don't want like fans and people like yelling or trying to distract the players as they go through.
All right. Well, I guess that makes sense then. It just seemed like one of those things that I don't know. It's like anything else. They can sell a ticket for $20. They do it.
Sure.
And so do you buy that though? I mean, a guy who's maybe going to play in the NFL can't handle someone hooting and hollering when he's running the 40. I mean, it seems a little, I think I know what you're saying, but at the same time, it's like, come on, you know what?
If there was a way to monetize it, and if the NFL wanted to monetize it, they could definitely do it. So I think there's something that they want to protect out of all of that.
Right. It would just think that they would allow, I don't know. Like I said, so what do we have to do? What kind of credentials do I need to get Lenny to get us some kind of,
there you go. Yeah.
Lenny, if you're out there listening, me and Chris need some kind of press pass next year to cover the combine
strings. Yeah. To have us covering.
Right. I know the word transition now. I mean, I'm in the biz.
You are in the biz. You're the consummate professional. We
have done 51 shows. By next year we'll be 100. That's like definitely in the biz, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, so
by next week. I mean,
right. And it starts next week, right? Aren't we a week out roughly, or does it start this weekend? What's the actual? When does it actually?
It's what, at end of this week, or no?
What's today? You're the expert here. I'm the fan.
26th, I believe, is when it starts.
Oh, so next week then.
Yeah, 26th to March 4th is
right.
the date.
The middle of next week, because I know it was on during the day while I was at work, So now, do you really think, and we talked about last week with our little missed things, in most cases for the average fantasy fan, unless you're a dynasty guy, doesn't mean a lot, right? I mean, we're not going to see anybody that's going to make you move somebody up, 2 rounds in the draft.
No, I don't think so, because there aren't too many players like of the Saquon, Ezekiel Elliott, any of that type of player that's really being projected to come out this year. I mean, the only player that I think could really that might move up rounds, assuming they test well, it might be Kyler Murray, because the rumors swirling around his invite to the combine, him accepting the invite to the combine and actually participating in it, is that the logic is that his decision to completely commit to the NFL means that his agent got word that he's going in the first round. That's the rumor.
Right.
And with Cliff Kingsbury and all that, and the Cardinals having the 1.01 pick in the draft, it's possible. And that's the rumor that's going around. So if Kyler Murray does go in the first round to the Cardinals, then that might shift how people draft this upcoming season. He'd be the only one, really. Anybody else, not really.
Speaking of the Cardinals, did they trade or sign a tight end today?
Yes, they took Charles Clay.
Right. Which Charles Clay was a very high tight end prospect, wasn't he, when he was coming out?
When he's coming out, yep. But that was the same thing for Ricky Seals-Jones.
Right.
A very high end prospect.
But all but a couple tight ends sometimes take a few years, sometimes 5 years before, they have 5 great years.
It's one of the hardest positions to adjust to, because
I've always liked Clay. I just think Buffalo was the wrong spot. I mean, every once in a while when they would throw to him, I mean, he would have a couple big games here and there when they would decide to throw to him. And then some people would say, well, he didn't catch, he can't catch. Well, unfortunately, I do believe someone like him, if you're not throwing him the ball regularly, and then all of a sudden he gets 2 passes in a game and he drops one of them, I don't think that makes you a dropper. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
no, I don't think so either. But no, you can look at a ton of quite a few people that have left Buffalo and become viable fantasy assets.
Exactly.
From Chris Hogan to Sammy Watkins to Robert Woods. I mean, now hopefully Charles Clay. I mean, there are a lot of people that have come out of Buffalo on the other side. Well, hell, Marshawn Lynch. But Marshawn Lynch was productive when he was still with Buffalo.
I'll give you that. I mean, I don't know. I agree. As for fantasy, he was. I think he could have. I think in his prime, he could have done more other places.
Yeah, in his prime, he was beast mode that we saw in Seattle, but he was still productive when he was in Buffalo.
So yeah, just you happen to say Cardinals. So you're thinking the Cardinals are looking at quarterback? I've heard that rumor too, but they just got one. I mean, so do we just not give anybody enough time anymore? We don't give coaches enough time. We don't give players enough time. I mean,
Cardinals organization seems to have been run on the fact that they want results now. I mean, they brought in the head coach for 1 year last year, got rid of him, offensive coordinator, got rid of him like midway through the season. I think their GM, they wound up getting, I mean, just like from all the way down the line, it seemed like they're just ready to move on. They want this turnover, because I don't know what the reasoning behind it is, but you can look back just 2 seasons, or even 1 season rather, and they were a team that was headed towards the playoffs. I mean, 2016, 2017, they were playoff contenders with Carson Palmer, John Brown, J.J. Nelson, David Johnson when he first came out, and then now it's just they've done a complete 180 in 2 years.
I'm trying to think the name of the head coach that retired from there.
Bruce Arians, now at Tampa Bay.
If he hadn't retired, I mean, it's like, I don't know. I'm pretty sure if he hadn't retired, they'd keep him. I mean, I think they were sold on him being there as long as he wanted. So did he leave because he saw the writing that maybe they were going to start doing stupid things, or did the stupid thing start because he wasn't there anymore?
I think it was like probably 50-50. I mean, he probably got tired of it. He saw that Carson Palmer was going to retire. Probably didn't want to go through the rigmarole of trying to coach up a rookie quarterback because he's known to not really be into working with rookies. That's why he sat David Johnson for quite some time until David Johnson outplayed Chris Johnson for his spot on the depth chart. So it's just that could have been part of it, is that he saw that, you know, his aging vets were about to leave. And so it was also time for him to retire. And then come back.
I got you. I don't know. It just seems like all of a sudden they've been crazy. You know, they were never a great team. They were competitive. And then all of a sudden they're like, boop, you know, doing a bunch of crazy shit. So speaking of kind of crazy, what's the deal with the Bengals and no defensive coordinator yet, or nobody interested? I mean, people on Twitter make it seem like it's another, just because it's the Bengals, it's a joke and blah, blah. But I mean, is it that this head coach is being pickier? Or is it truly that coaches are saying no?
I think there are some coaches that are like legitimately saying no, or organizations that they go to ask for coordinators to interview, they're getting blocked.
Yeah, but that's not the Bengals' fault. I mean, I don't know.
Well, that's not the Bengals' fault, but the coaches that have been turning them down, I mean, they are legitimately saying no. So I don't know what that's a function of. That's a function of the ownership, the front office, maybe in meetings that they're having about how Zach Taylor wants the defense to be run and how they're going to work together. Maybe it's Zach Taylor saying he's not a good fit for the culture he wants to try and, you know, instill in the entire organization.
He's all offense. I mean, I would have thought that, you know, as an organization, they would have come up with, you know,
Me too. So it just speaks volumes about how that organization is going to move. If we're already talking about, I mean, they're going to have a decent amount of turnover on the defensive side. They need to make some additions. So they need somebody in place before the combine, I would hope, so they can start scouting these players and figure out who they're going to wind up drafting here in pretty much 2 months.
Right. And that may not happen. I mean, like,
that may not happen. I mean,
that's
wild to me.
So that was that. The other thing is it, I mean, I know right now it's just rumor. What's this rumor about Odell Beckham and the Patriots and that type thing? I mean, he's not a free agent, right? So it'd have to be a trade. Is it that the Giants just know that's their big shot at getting some players and getting rid of Odell, that Odell's not going to help them win, so you might as well trade him? Or is it them finally going, we're not wanting to deal with him anymore? Or is this all just rumor and nothing's going to happen?
It's probably 50-50 because, I mean, there have been talks of them either trying to move him. There were talks of them trying to move him last season. So there could be a part of that in that, how they want to deal with, I guess, his antics, quote unquote. But really, I think it comes down to how they want to move forward as an organization, which seems to be, I don't know, it doesn't make much sense to me, investing a first-round pick in Saquon Barkley. But they're not moving on from Eli Manning. So whatever quarterback, they either going to let Kyle Lauletta come in behind Eli Manning, or they're going to try and draft maybe Dwayne Haskins or somebody like that this year, Drew Lock or whomever. But either way, if Eli Manning is still there, it's another year that they're going to have to wait in order to transition to a new quarterback. Saquon Barkley's prime years, another one of his prime years, gets wasted. So I don't know how they're going to wind up actually using the talent that they've spent all this draft capital putting together this team. So even if they do get rid of Odell Beckham, the new quarterback's going to have nobody to throw it to. Sterling Shepard, I mean, he's a complimentary receiver at best.
Right.
So who's going to be there to catch balls from this new quarterback? So I think it's just the way that they're operating this franchise. It doesn't make much sense to me. Like, so even if they wanted to trade him, I mean,
Odell Beckham seems to be one of those type players that we don't want to, but somehow just ends up on the Patriots. I mean,
wouldn't surprise me at all.
It's like, and we say the rich getting richer, but when you look at the Patriots, they never look that rich, except on their fingers. I mean, when you look at the players, Odell Beckham by far would be the best wide receiver they've had in years, let alone just now.
Right.
And all of a sudden, there's something there. And now my problem with when I hear trade is, I don't know. I know the NFL is a little different in trade sometimes, the way it works. But I've never heard a lot of thing about New England having a bunch of young guys either, though. That's the point. Right. They're not full of a bunch of young tradable guys that I can come up with off the top of my head. So
no, they really don't. I mean, nobody that anybody's really going to want. I mean, after last season, who do they still have? I mean, they got Philip Dorsett, who's fairly young, who hasn't really panned out. They released Malcolm Mitchell, the wide receiver that they drafted 2 years ago or 2 seasons ago, I think. Right. I mean, Rex Burkhead's getting older. James White's getting older. They got Sony Michel this year, so at least there's one running back they can have. The tight end class that's coming in this year looks to be one of the best out of the next few years, so they should have a Gronk replacement coming out of this draft. And then, of course, they still have to replace Tom Brady with somebody other than Brian Hoyer.
Right. So, but now it sounds like they don't necessarily feel they need to do that for a couple more years. So
right. So I guess it really comes down to if they are truly in the game, because I think the rumors were that the Patriots were aggressively trying to get Odell last year. I wonder if there's a way that they could restructure something in order to pay Odell, because I think, if anything, if they were to offer him a reduced salary so they can still make everything work, I think Odell would probably be one of those guys that, if I got a shot at a ring, I would take a reduced salary in order to do that. I think that's his mentality, is that he wants to win.
Right.
And that's pretty much the Patriot way.
Isn't his contract only like a year old now anyway, roughly? Didn't he just sign that big contract a year or two ago? Didn't they give him
last season, I believe, is when he got his contract. So I think there's something that that could be worked out. I mean, he goes and plays for the Patriots. I think there'd be like enough that he could still get paid enough to satisfy him, but not so much so that the Patriots are completely lopsided in terms of contracts.
Right. All right. We'll get on to a couple more questions here, but thanks for listening to us tonight on Lenny Melnick, FantasySports.com, the Legend Sports Network. I don't say that enough. See, I'm learning to be a professional broadcast. No. Like real radio, baby. You got to turn that like every 20 minutes.
Oh, that's a good call. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, we got to work on our transitions, and our segues, and our if ESPN's going to have us on someday, we got to be able to throw it to Mike, or something.
I like that.
Yeah, we have to work on that, Chris. But the big thing is we're Andrea is close to having the baseball draft guide out that will be available here pretty soon. Okay. So, throwing that out there, there's more new shows all the time. So that's good. The round table on Tuesday is still one of the prime the prime shows on the network. Just throwing that out there. I'm just saying. So come to Lenny Melnick, fantasysports.com. Lenny and Andrea started back on Sirius Radio this last week. They're on every Sunday from 7 to 10 on the radio, talking baseball and all that. So, go out there and listen. I listened. Andrea got him to say tits on Sirius Radio. And I about died laughing. It was hysterical. Because in baseball, again, hi, Dan. Glad to see you're done working. DVD Dan is out there in the chat room. He just showed up. I don't know. Maybe I haven't just, you don't know Dan, Chris, but Dan and his dad farm a very popular plant in the West Coast. This is the season. This is the time where they're reaping some of their benefits, and
Gotcha.
It's time to bring in the crop and trim the bud, let's say.
Okay.
So Dan's been out there working awful hard. So,
Okay.
Dan, we're glad you're out there. Someone showed up and listened to us because we're talking. This is a baseball. When me and you go off on football, I had a couple baseball questions, and I realized you don't. You're gonna ruin it for me. We did talk. We talked Reds. We did.
Well, yeah. See.
Yeah,
So it's not all bad.
Right. We did. We talked Reds, so we do our best. But but there's two great baseball shows on now before our show. I mean, there's many of hours of baseball out there, so we just try to bring some sports and some fantasy and all that.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening. Come out to the website. Listen to Dan. Dan's got the Fisticuff show on Mondays and Thursdays. I think like 10 o'clock also. Maybe it's 11 and he's on for a couple hours. I listen to him when I'm in bed, all warm and cozy. Their show's called Fisticuffs though, but they don't ever fight. They love each other. I'm like, it's the worst name for a show. I always tell them Fisticuffs.
I don't get that.
Two people got bang heads a little bit.
Yeah.
Me and you were too sweet on each other. We couldn't even pull off the fisticuff stuff.
Well, I mean, depends on the episode,
That's right. Every once in a while, a little head banging. But
I'll call you a curmudgeon.
Dan and Dave just are always like, "Oh yeah, they're back like we were." I agree with that. I agree.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, forget that. Got to get past that.
Right. All right. Oh, they're gonna try it. Oh, they're gonna do it. But Dan, Dan put in there what time tomorrow. He says they're going to try to do a day show because he's on a different schedule right now. He's in Oregon, and normally they do a late show because that's obviously for them. That's like dinner time when they're doing the show. And so, all right. But speaking of baseball, the draft season's coming, and I know you when it comes to football. One of my quick questions for you was, when you're first starting to do your mock drafts or you're first really starting to, you've studied some, you got some names, what are some of the things you like to try when you're doing your practice drafts or your mocks and things like that? For football, obviously, but I'm kind of looking for the general things. Do you like drafting live? Do you like drafting on the sites where you can, like I said, have, program robots to draft with you, or is there something else you like to do? Maybe it is the best ball, which baseball doesn't. They have, but it's I don't know. It's not as popular as the football one. But just give me your insight of we're a month or so out. Most of the drafts are going to be starting here in the next 2 or 3 weeks, which in football becomes a pretty popular time. So, what do you like to start doing when hey, I got 2 or 3 weeks till draft season. I need to start doing blank.
I think I try and start with as much of a top level view as possible where I look at roster construction. So I want to see what my team is going to look like if I start off with 2 running backs. If I start off with 2 running backs, regardless of which spot I draft in, what does my team look like? And then I just fill out wide receiver, tight ends, quarterbacks, and all that stuff afterwards. And then what if I go with something even crazier, like 3 running backs? I'm just hammering running backs first 3 rounds. What does my team look like? Or then you completely flip it on its head and you start off with nothing but wide receivers. You try the old 0 RB method.
Right, like in baseball, you might want to try doing 3 pitchers in the beginning, and then if you get enough bats for the end of your lineup, or vice versa. Don't do any pitching until later.
Yeah,
kind of get an idea what's where.
players or anything like that. Just try and look at overall philosophy, see what your team looks like, and see what you like. And then if you really like your team based off that philosophy, then you can start to sprinkle in the players that you like afterwards.
And my little tidbit on that, and I think we've talked, and again, obviously now we've done so many shows. Starting tonight, we're never going to say we've talked about in the past. No one goes back and listens to old, fantasy podcasts. Nobody. Yeah. Old fantasy information is useless. So people, if you're listening to us now, great. If you aren't, you're never going to hear this. Yeah. So my point would be that exactly what you said. And I think people get confused of, okay, well, I'm going to draft 3 pitchers to see how my team's going to work out because that's a strategy I might use, or I'm going to do this. See, I think it's the other way around, meaning I want to draft 3 pitchers early in case that's what has to happen. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I think you have to mock draft sometimes because you don't know what's going to happen. So if you've mock draft enough different ways, you can go, oh, hey, I mocked this way a few times. And you know what? These 3 pitchers are falling to me. So I have an idea what's going to happen. Versus some people, what they'll do is they'll start mock drafting and go, man, because I used to do this. They'd go, man, this is perfect for me. I'm definitely going to start my draft this way. I love it. This is perfect. So what happens is that's the only thing in their head then. And then when the draft doesn't go that way, they screw the draft up. Yep. So my point, I agree with you. You got to do the mock drafts, but do them as a way to be prepared, not a way to come up with a strategy.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. I completely agree, because once you get married to a strategy, if one player goes the wrong way, or if one pick doesn't go the right way, your entire roster can be completely blown up and you don't know how to adjust. So that's why trying out multiple strategies, seeing what feels right, seeing what player value kind of falls out of it, so you understand how to adapt to your draft, I think is the safest way to go about doing these mocks.
Right. See, I don't even like the idea of coming into a draft with what, we call a strategy, because then you're locked in.
Exactly.
To me, you're coming in with options. I mean, I want to come in with options and prepared for all those different options. So
yeah, I think with some players, at least if we're just talking about football, I think there are a lot of strategies that a lot of people they want to use because that's what works for them. So like a lot of people are just looking at, well, I just want to draft like running backs for the first couple of rounds because I think running back is going to be the most important position. So I'll start off with 2 running backs and go from there. And that's just level of comfort. Now, I wouldn't say that works for everybody, but there are some people that are just kind of locked into that.
Right.
Now, me personally, I try and stay as flexible as possible. So it just depends on where your draft position is at, who falls on the board, value, and and all that stuff. I try and take all that into consideration, but it just depends on who you are, like what type of player you are, how much experience you have, and then you'll just find the strategy that works for you. But strategy not necessarily saying that you have to take a running back in the first round, you have to take a wide receiver then, or whatever the case.
Right. It's back to when we did our commandments, and number 1 was value, and that's what I've always said. The first 2 rounds, if you want to call this a strategy, is I just don't want to. The word screw up isn't right. Meaning, I'm willing to take safer guys and pick, my 1 and 2 rounds.
Yeah, you don't have to reach.
And then, I don't like to even use the word win or lose drafts, but to me, it's that 4th. In football would be 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. In baseball, it's probably more, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's where you win drafts or your teams are put together well is when you got the right guys in the middle of the draft. No, everyone spends months, worrying about their first couple of picks, and then they worry another month about their last few guys. Who's our little sleeper? You know what? It's those 5, 6, 7, 8 guys in the middle that probably are going to make the difference.
Oh yeah.
So same thing when you're drafting for mocks. To me, that's when I even pay the most attention. Who is here? Who's in these areas? Because like I said, I just said we weren't going to say that. I never said this. What I'm about to say.
You never ever said it. Okay.
Never said it. But what I like to do is back to a strategy. I'm still going to try to get my mess values in those middle still.
Uh-huh.
Even if it doesn't fill needs, because then I'd rather reach in rounds 13, 14, meaning, okay, I have to get you're a football guy. So if I go, I have to get a tight end now. So I'm going to reach because I need to get one. I'd rather reach there than reach in round 4. You know what I'm saying? Or reach in round 7, So, that's still why I draft for value in those middle rounds, especially because if my need happens, I'll reach later. Meaning I'd rather reach 2 rounds at the end of my draft than reach 2 rounds in the middle of my draft, because the guy I gave up by not, meaning the guy and that's where people forget. It's the guy I didn't draft that could have hurt it, that hurt me, because I reached for my tight end there instead of going, okay, I know I don't need a running back, but this guy is that's value right there. I got to bang him out, and I'll reach later for my tight end if I have to, And I think that's the same in baseball. I hear people all the time saying, hey, you know what? I got to fill that third base slot. And if I don't get something now, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I always look at it different. I'm like, no, I'm not going to reach for just because I need a third baseman in round 8. If there's not a great value there for me, but hey, there's some first baseman that keeps falling, even though I already have 2 of them. I'm going to take the first baseman and I'll reach later for a third baseman. I mean, which to me, the more you mock, you can have a better idea of going, hey, I always know what's his name is available in the 15th. So if I don't get a such and such player here, I know I can get this guy in the 13th usually. Meaning I'll reach for him back then, knowing that he'll be there and I don't have to worry about losing him because I know I can get him. So, but do you find that too? Do you think the middle is where fantasy people sometimes don't study enough? They worry about the sleepers and they worry about those 2 rounds, 1, 2, and 3 picks, but it's those middle guys in both football and baseball that almost always win the leagues.
Oh, yeah, because, anecdotally speaking, when it comes to the middle rounds for this past season, let's look at some of the guys you could have gotten in the middle rounds. You could have gotten, just from the tight end position, Eric Ebron was going in the middle rounds. George Kittle was going in the middle rounds. Even Patrick Mahomes was going in some of the middle rounds.
He's going later in some cases.
Later in some cases, at least from running backs, we're talking about Kerryon Johnson, Sony Michel. So there are a lot of guys that are from any position that were going in some of the middle rounds that kind of got overlooked because we were just so focused on,
or just people that don't know, and that becomes their ADP, and that was the argument other people have with ADP and all that. ADP. If you're drafting if half the people in your league at your draft today is drafting 100% based on ADP, then you can somewhat rely on that ADP and know players are going to be in certain spots. If you're drafting with a bunch of good players where ADP is a little more of just an opinion, then you got to be a little more, you're going to see some, people pop up and people drop because those, better players, their ADP technically, or I guess it's not an ADP, it's their own draft order might have a guy much higher or much lower based on their, what they see as value. So,
but I do agree with you and that's why I was pointing out some of those players was that we focus so much on the sleepers. We focus so much on the Mitchell Trubisky's of last year. We focus so much on even defenses, like the Chicago Bears was like a sleeper defense. So everyone wanted to try and get in on that. There were so many players that we were focused on towards the later rounds, even like James White, Rex Burkhead, Tyler Lockett. A lot of those players that while they performed well, everybody was focused on what's going to happen to come rounds 11, 12, 13, when there was still, a good chunk of players that you could have gotten in rounds 7, 8, and 9 that could have still won your league.
Right. And again, I even think I don't think Dan's out there anymore. He's more of a baseball guy than me. He's a big baseball guy. I'd just be curious his opinion. I just think people overlook, and when I say people, I'm the home league guy. I think that's still where most of us play. Most of us don't play in industry leagues or we don't play in, network leagues or podcast leagues. We get in those, but those are different things altogether. Most of us are in home leagues, and trust me, most home leagues, a big majority of guys are drafting based on ADP because they've not even mocked. They're just, the ADP has popped up on their app right now during the draft, or they're drafted off some list or guide they printed 2 months ago, so it gives you a little more freedom. To me, that's why having some knowledge of what ADP is in a home league is pretty important.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's where knowing, it's kind of like the poker references that you and I use. Like you play, you might be playing with your cards, but you're also playing the other person. So understanding the other person and understanding their tendencies is also what can give you an edge and help you win your league.
Right. And now again, the baseball league I just got in today. Again, it's with some good baseball. But I went in over my head. I got in a which I had where, and I know money is a general term. What do you consider a high stake, low stake? You know what I'm saying? I mean, I obviously, I think it varies. Some people, $1,000 is low stakes, but I think most fantasy players, when you start getting, over $100, that starts being considered a higher stake game. And when you start talking under 50, those are low stake games. And then obviously, I have, sometimes there's the leagues that are, $10, and to me, those are no stake games, but better than free in some cases.
Well, put a little skin in the game.
What the numbers I threw out there, you agreeing with those? Is that kind of where you would say?
Yeah, that's about my cutoff. Like I would say $50 is about in the range of where, I wouldn't really have to go to, Mrs. Allen and say, hey, this is the game or the league I'm going to join. But anything above that is probably where it's like, maybe we should talk about this.
Yeah.
Maybe I should get a co-owner.
All right. I just tell Mrs. Easy I'm buying another microphone. She seems to be fine with it. But no, I got in and again, I've played in a few $20, $50 baseball leagues. I think last year the biggest one I played in was a 50. Well, this year I got in $100 one. And the problem is it's $100 one with baseball people. So not only did I, jump up and, so that's it. I'm going to dazzle them. I'm going to dazzle them with my skills, with what I bring. Easy is going to, duck and bob and weave.
Yeah.
So no, these guys, they know baseball. These are serious guys. Some of them are on Sirius Radio. Some have been in this league for a long time. There was an opening and I was asked, and I'm like, I'm not a baseball guy. They're like, whatever, shut up and get in it. So I'm like, right. Take all your Reds. DK Luce, welcome to the chat room. See, chat room's really, we're boom. We started talking baseball and we woke up 2 people. I the Reds, I think there's a lot of value on the Reds this year. Unfortunately, especially on Lenny's show, Lenny keeps talking up all the Reds. He's killing us. Because, unfortunately you get a couple of decent, intelligent people talking players up and ADP starts moving around. I mean, especially now in football this time of year, it doesn't take much to move a player because there's not as many people drafting. So if you get a few people that start hyping a guy, they can move real quick. I know in baseball, it's getting closer to, the real draft. So ADP, people have been mock drafting a long time now. So it's a little harder to move people, but the Reds do need pitching, but we talked about that at the beginning of the show. They're going to be fun to watch. DVD, I was told I wasn't allowed to have a co-owner. Now, it doesn't mean that I won't listen to your show. Maybe I'll be like, Dan, I'll be like caller 7, caller 7 gets free advice and I'll call the Fisticuff show. And then maybe we can work something out, Dan, where I'm getting some, I love my air quotes, where I'm getting some,
gotta use them.
I'm getting some butt advice from my buddy out on the West Coast. Yeah. Like I said, I feel, I had to say this. I spent more money on Mrs. Easy's birthday dinner tonight, so
it happens.
It does happen, and trust me, I spent that on her tonight knowing there was going to be I wasn't going to win nothing. There was no,
that happens.
Right. It happens. So, that's the thing. So I went into this, like I said, I'm going to show them. They're going to look at me and go, man, I don't know what he's doing. And then they're going to look and go, that bastard snuck up on us.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to show me and the green screen. We'll go into my team in depth, during these shows. I mean, we're going to dissect during some transitions and we'll make it happen. Yeah. And I am excited this year about the Reds, to be real honest. And if I'm not mistaken, Dan, DK, whoever's out there, don't. When do preseason games start for baseball? I'm pretty sure here in the next. I think we're getting close to where there's actually. I know they don't televise all the games, but I'm pretty sure usually the first couple. Fox Sports gets pretty excited, and they always show a couple of the first early preseason games. Yeah, DK Lucius saying it's this week. That's what I thought. I thought I saw that the Reds and the Indians already play. I think they're the first game. I think Fox Sports is already, going to be advertising or showing that one local. So that'll be fun. Just to see the sunshine and the grass and all that'll be pretty exciting. So now again, I'm not I don't watch football preseason much, even for fantasy. I don't think it helps me a whole lot. And watching baseball preseason to me is still a tad. I think I enjoyed it a little bit more, only because it's still, especially who's playing now. Some people go, I don't like to watch him because it's not the best players and all that. But still, give me a young kid on the pitching mound that's trying to make a team, throwing 98 miles an hour, and some young kid at bat trying to make a team. I still like that confrontation. Regardless if the game means a whole lot. So. Pretty excited about that. So,
yeah.
All right. I think that's all I had. Any big news that you had in the sports thing? I mean, other than that, we've solved the NASCAR problem. They just need to start going 260 miles an hour this week, and me and you will tune in.
Oh yeah.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I would watch.
I would too.
It's even like the funny cars. They had to do the same thing with funny cars. They've done weird things. I just remember my dad. I mean, and again, now I knew Don the snake and the mongoose, Jake, and those kind of, big drag racers, Big Daddy Dan something. I know in this, everyone on this forum and this chat room talks wrestling and all that. And I did watch wrestling when I was a little kid. And
I still watch it.
Were you around when the Salem Mall was still here?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The Salem Mall, when it was new, they had a little area, like a backroom banquet area. I remember my dad taking me. We went to this banquet area, the Salem Mall, and watched, a bunch of fat guys wrestling. I mean, it was truly.
I've heard some of those. They're actually fun to watch.
As a little kid, trust me, it was cigar filled. Blah, blah, blah. I couldn't even. Could have been 5 of the most famous wrestlers in the world. I was maybe 6 years old. I couldn't know. I just couldn't even tell you who they were. I was just so young. But right. I just remember going, this is cool. But at the same time, I'd watch it on TV and and all that. But racing, John Force, Big Daddy Garlis, Gene Snow, who was the girl? I was going to say Pinky Tescadero, but I'm pretty sure that was Fonzie's girlfriend. I think that's a whole nother thing. But again, my dad was into racing, but only to go, hey, let's watch drag racing. They're going to go 280 today. It wasn't the drivers. It was the accomplishment of speed. Yeah. And now, as a country, I don't know. I don't know what would have to happen for my kids to sit down and watch a race anymore. But for me, it was just Dad saying, "You're about to see something's never happened before. Someone's going to go 210 today. Sit down here with me, a little shithead, and you're going to watch because someday you're going to be on the radio and talk about this." And And it's the same with even the Kentucky Derby. My dad, we always watch it because Dad would go, you never know where you're going to see a horse go under two minutes. I remember my dad always saying, and that wasn't even a mechanical device. That was a living being. But my dad would go, and I remember, was it Secretariat? I remember when one of them went like a minute, 56 or something like that. My God, my dad's like, yes, a horse finally went under 2 minutes. Right. Like the 4-minute mile and some of these things. And I realized we just watched a video at the beginning of the show of a girl that, the first time, 4-time champion in a row. She's breaking records, but, and trust me, they get hurt now. Some of those skiers are going so fast, the injuries and, and tendons and ACLs and MCLs and all that. But when it comes to cars now, we just have decided, nope.
Nope.
Can't go over 220. Can't do it.
That's it. That's the limit.
224. Nope. Restrictor plates.
Can't do it.
Top fuel. Nope. Shirley McNally. That's it. Thank you. Right. Pinky Tescadero, though, still, there was something hot about Pinky when I was a little boy. I mean, I don't even know. Happy Days might even be before your time, right? Were you a Happy Days? Do you remember the Fonz?
I remember. Yes, I remember.
You remember from reruns, or you remember the
reruns?
Right. See, I was the real Happy Days, man. I mean, I
don't think I was alive when that show was coming.
I can't help that, but Pinky Tescadero, you know what? I mean, now looking back, I kind of realized, Pinky, nowadays she wouldn't have fit in on a lot of shows. You know, she's a little rough around the edges. But, you know, when you're 9 or 10 and Fonzie's got him a hot Pinky Tescadero in the garage, I'm like, get it. Now I get it, Dad. Now I know why you're a car guy. You know.
All makes sense now.
It does. It does. But it's even like, you know, and it's I'll take it all the way to football and baseball. You know, we've throttled the guys. You know, we don't let them do PEDs. We make the field smaller to get more home runs instead of the other way around. No, make the fields bigger. Let's make our players bigger. Feed them bananas with some PEDs. Let's see the 700-foot home runs. And wait a minute, they're endangering themselves. You know what? I understand it. So I get the people that say that, you know, you can't let them do that. But at the same time, as human beings, what can we accomplish?
Push the boundaries.
A little bit. I don't know. Do you watch real sports?
No.
Okay. Have you ever? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Because
first of all, here's the problem with. Are you okay with this going over since we're already over? I don't want to.
We're already over.
I know we're already over. All right. Thanks. Thanks. PED. Right. PEDs. That's it. That's right. But PEDs for cars and everything. I think we need to if it requires giving a driver, you know what? We're not going to drug him up, but we're going to give him something where he'll go, I don't give a shit if I'm going 260. You know, is that the same as a PED? Is that a PED if you say, just drink this. And you'll love going. You will love going 260 around the curve.
Yeah,
that might be it. That might be wrong. But hi, Andrea. But my thing is, the problem with, first of all, the show is called Real Sports.
All right.
And here's why I know it really has nothing to do with sports. Mrs. Easy will watch it. Mm-hmm. It is all about sports stories, if you know, it's about, you know, it's wrapped around some sport somehow, but none of the stories are, you know, sports stories, if you know what I'm saying.
Sure.
But they have, if you watch this month's episode, there's a guy who obviously got injured and lost his legs mountain climbing. I mean, he got lost on a mountain, frostbit. They had to remove his legs. And long story short, he now owns a very technical technology company that makes limbs that make amputee people even more, you know, powerful than they were before with their own limb.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You know, which, you know, they do these springs and these special things, all that. But he's taken it a step further with motors and gears. And I mean, things that aren't even legal in sports yet. You know what I'm saying? I mean, some of the springs and stuff they're allowing, but these things, but he's also working on these devices that you can, it's also built externally. So he's made them for people who are amputee, but he also is working on things that you can put on an athlete that still has his own legs. You see what I'm saying? I mean, these are devices that make people jump and run and do stuff. And he truly says it can make you somewhat bionic. I mean, and that's his point. I mean, can sports go there? Would we watch? Yeah, this is football or this is baseball, but this over here is mega ball. This over here is, you know, mega football. Right. Where the rules are a little different because we're going to see what can happen with players that are in excess of what normal humans can do. Right. And that made me think I kind of agree with, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at here. You know, we've decided that race car drivers shouldn't go faster than 225 or so. So we restrict the engines. We decide that athletes shouldn't hit 600-foot home runs, so we don't allow them PEDs.
Yeah.
And again, I know the concussions is a big thing,
Well,
but
sure.
so we control the hitting and the tackling and all that. But
Yeah.
Is that part of the problem with sports, that we've now restricted it way too much, so that we, as fans, we don't see the next level. We don't see the next great athlete is a lot better, but he's still a lot better still within the parameters we allow him to get.
Yeah, so that means the greatness is even greater, I guess. If it's like that, you're waiting for the next natural great talent to come around, and that's when you really start talking about generational talent. Right.
But my point is, if you can create that versus waiting on it, is that wrong?
Well, I mean, is it wrong? No, I don't think it's wrong.
Like he said in the thing, as a fan of football, which is AAF thing, I watched this weekend. It's I don't know. I'd rather watch college ball personally, but I watched a little of it. But my point would be, Dan's saying extreme sports, meaning if the NFL was over and then, okay, for the next 6 weeks, we're going to have extreme football. And these guys could be in the MMA fighting or whatever, but instead they're going to play this, it's not the same game, meaning things are changed. We're going to allow some different rules. We're going to, and I don't know even what it would be. Maybe it's no helmets at all. Maybe it's, maybe they're in full pad uniforms, meaning like robots, that type thing. I'm just saying, I would watch that over what I'm considering right now to be a lower level of football. Sure. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't know. And I think the same with baseball. I like the idea of what we have in baseball, but if they said, okay, once the season's over, we've got these 8 teams of special athletes that are going to play on these huge fields, and they're going to throw the ball 120 miles an hour. And, I don't know. Are we ready for extreme sports?
No.
Maybe that's the thing.
No, we're not, because I think we're still in the throes of figuring out what the current injuries have done to our current athletes. So, while a lot of people are calling for those types of things, and I do agree with you that there's probably a desire to do that, I think there'd probably be enough backlash from some of these other sports entities that, especially the NFL with concussions and whatnot, that haven't still resolved some of the injuries that their athletes have already suffered. So I think until that actually gets resolved, I don't think we'd be really in a place to financially
party pooper. But my argument would be the NFL would be against it, because I believe if it actually happened, it'd have to be a non-NFL entity that would go, guys, they signed a contract. We're going to play, and I even sometimes you'll hear people say old time football. You know what? Yeah. We're going to lay people out over the middle. We're going to do this, meaning, you know what? We got special helmet design, or we have this, or we have that. And you know what? If you want to come watch hard hits, this sport's for you. And it may not even be called football, but just look enough like it that we would watch it. You know what I'm saying? Sure. So, for us to believe that sports aren't going to change in the next, and yes, everyone wants to say they're going to go away. I don't believe what we see today is going to necessarily go away, but I do think it's back to MMA and boxing. A lot of boxing people 30 years ago went, nah, that MMA shit's not going to last. Boxing's still the great. And now it's the other way around. Boxing's gone, and MMA took over because it's different. They went and I don't know if you paid attention. I was big into MMA when it first came out. And boxing people were saying the same shit. Boxing people were going, this isn't going to last. That's illegal. They can't do that. It's going to be outlawed, and it's going to be this. And instead, they kept adjusting the rules to where they could get away just with enough. And now it's legal in like 30 states. So my point would be there are ways around this, back to 260-mile-an-hour NASCAR people, meaning it only takes one facility to go, we think our track can handle it. We think if you bring this kind of car, you could go 260 or 270. We think there's audience out there that would watch a race where we're going 270, meaning the extreme racing. I don't know. I think that there's an audience, maybe. Mad Max meets NFL.
There will always be an audience for it. It's just how well do you how can you market it? How do you monetize it? Who's going to sponsor it?
I get all that, and you know what? As long as there's electrolytes in it, they'll sell something. I'm just saying.
I don't know. I mean who's going to be the official beer of that? It's not going to be Budweiser.
The official, who now? Again, we can say that. You might say that. I mean, back to the MMA. I remember some of the crazy sponsors MMA had originally because big sponsors didn't think anyone would watch it.
Yeah.
But now you turn it on. There's not in the octagon, which is what 8 squares. It's a circle, but there's in the octagon. There ain't an octagon that doesn't have a damn monster sign or I mean, there's multiple big sponsors that are in the MMA. So
for sure.
I mean, I don't know. That's just, and again, this all started because I think racing. I'm all the way back to racing. All they did is, if a driver gets in the car and goes, I can go faster, I can control this. That, it's to me, that's mechanical and human working together to stay within the boundaries of what they both can do without crashing. And if they can do that at 260, let them do it. And then I'd watch. Chris, we have gone a little long.
A little bit.
And when this was all starting and I was about to pass out in my chair from my picture
you said you were tired.
I was. And I really went, I thought based on my notes, me and Chris can bang this out in 45 minutes. The 3 people that show up in our chat room will be glad we got off the air and we'll be fine. And no, instead you caused me to go over.
I'll look at that. See,
I had fun though.
You always do.
We always do. Right. And now we, I'd watch NASCAR if Ricky Bobby was real. Now, I gotta say, a terrible movie, and I'm a NASCAR guy to a point. That movie was terrible. But
I didn't hate it.
But in Ricky Bobby, when he's driving backwards, same thing. Going backwards when everyone else is going the other direction. All right, that's a skill. I would pay to watch that a little bit.
Yep.
So, but again, in NASCAR, it's the other way around. No, we're going to restrict them all. We don't want one car to go too fast and blah, blah, blah. So we're going to bunch them all up. That's stupid. Guys, in the chat room, everyone out there, thanks for coming out for the last 20 minutes of the show that shouldn't have even been on. But like I said, I'm just telling you, I don't know if your wife watches sports, but my wife only watches one sports show, and that's a show called Real Sports. It has nothing to do with real sports.
Right.
So that's why I know it isn't even about sports, because she'll watch it. It's always sad stories. It's always sad stories.
Oh, sure. Somebody
loses a leg and now they're building feet for people. Somebody, and they've had, don't get me wrong. I actually find it's actually a very good show, very good reporting, but it is far from real sports. It's real sports happened or something like that. I don't even know. So I recommend it. Get out there and watch.
All
Chris,
right.
Are you writing for anywhere yet? Are you publishing anything yet?
Fantrax. You'll see me out on Fantrax.
You and Scotty Angle now are, I got to be careful if you're going to be looking for another old white guy to do a show with that has no hair. Then, see?
Scotty's the guy.
Damn it. I'm in big trouble now because he's got skill and I only have a green screen. So...
Man, that guy, he's already pumping out content and everything.
I know. I've been following him, for like, I don't know. I've been listening to him on Sirius Radio forever. I mean, probably 6 years since I got into fantasy and started listening to the Sirius. He was the morning guy for Sirius for a long time.
Oh, okay.
And, him and Ronus did shows together forever. And so I used to always listen to them. And then I listened to him when he went to FNTSY and all that. So, he's fun to listen to. All right. Go out there at Fantrax, look up Chris, listen to his stuff. Chris, we will be here again next Wednesday at 10 o'clock. Maybe I'll skip the picture next week, so I'm not as, laid back. And, we'll have something to talk about, I guess.
We'll find something.
So, we'll have fun. Everybody, Lenny Melnick, fantasysports.com, the Legend Sports Network. This has been a Fantasy Fan Sportscast, where we talk about everything. including changing the world of sports, Chris. So thanks for everybody out there. DK Lush, DVD Dan, Andrea, who came in later. Lou was in there real early at the beginning, but I think we put him to sleep because, he's a baseball guy. Tune in to Lenny tomorrow morning to listen to baseball at 9 o'clock. Chris, say goodnight.
Good night.
This has been Just a Fantasy Fan podcast. And to keep your fantasies going, follow us at justafantasyfan.com. Say good night. Good night.